let me make sure he's here. Yes, okay. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce our guest speaker, Peter Woodbury. Peter received his undergraduate degree in psychology from Harvard University and his master's in social work from Boston University. He's trained as a hypnotherapy and a regression therapist from people such as Brian Weiss, Alan Chips, and Dan Brown. And he's been on the faculty for Boston University, and he's also currently on the faculty of Atlantic University, where he teaches integrative imagery and regression hypnosis. He's in private practice as a psychotherapist and a hypnotherapist here in Virginia Beach, and uses spirituality and faith to help facilitate personal transformation. A student of the EDGAR CAYCE readings for over 30 years, he's a popular presenter on key topics and a very popular tour leader to places like South America, India, and Egypt. He's fluent in 3 languages. He also finds time to play EDGAR CAYCE in his very popular An Evening with EDGAR CAYCE. And I'd like to say that what used to be one of ARE's best kept secrets is no longer a secret. Peter Woodbury, come on down.
Thank you, Kevin. So, good morning. Today we'll be talking about hypnosis and regression. Hypnosis, of course, is at the core of this work. As you know, it was through hypnosis that Edgar Cayce discovered he had this ability to give in-trance readings. And so let me give you a little background on kind of the thinking that I have behind the course that we teach here at the ARE. I'll start, oftentimes when I go in the field, because Edgar Cayce's work is, because he was a devout Christian, the work is oftentimes associated with Christianity. There's oftentimes reference to the Christ consciousness. And I like to start with, this is the definition Cayce gave of the Christ consciousness, that it is a pattern that's in our mind, awaiting to be awakened by our will, our choices of our soul's oneness with God or our Creator. If you see in that definition, there's nobody's name. Jesus' name is not there. Muhammad's name is not there. Buddha or Lao Tzu, any other great master. So this is a pattern that is within all of us. And you could say that Jesus awakened that pattern. Buddha awakened that pattern. So this is a pattern that we all have. But I italicized the word awaken, meaning that this pattern has become dormant or has gone to sleep within us. And here I have a quote from Carl Jung, whose psychology is very compatible with the material that came through Edgar Cayce. Here Carl Jung says basically the same thing. The one primarily in need of redemption is not man, but the deity who is lost and sleeping in matter. So Cayce's story of our creation is that we have come from a universal oneness consciousness, an infinite consciousness, and coming into this three-dimensional consciousness, much of who we are has gone into storage or has gone dormant or into the subconscious or the sleeping part of us. So let me tell you a little bit about what hypnosis is and what it isn't. Hypnosis is a tool. So you can use hypnosis for all sorts of different things. It's probably most popularly thought of as used for smoking cessation or weight loss. That's kind of the popular use of hypnosis. Of course, here at the Edgar Cayce ARE, we use it for regression, for past life memory. So in that, in using hypnosis for regression is the assumption that we've had past lives. So that's part of kind of the thought that would be required to do a past life regression. You'd have to believe in reincarnation. Carl Jung would use hypnosis and access similar information, but he called it active imagination. So somebody might remember a past life, but they wouldn't have any bias about whether they had to believe in reincarnation or not. They just may have almost like a dream memory of an experience. But hypnosis is a tool, and it works with the suggestibility of the mind. The mind is highly suggestible in the waking state. That's what advertisement uses. But they found that between being awake and being asleep, that suggestibility increases. And so that's where hypnosis uses a technique called an induction to get you somewhere between being awake and asleep and begins to work with the suggestibility of the mind. And these states between being awake and being asleep are called trance states. Now, hypnotizability is a skill. It's like a musical skill. Some people are better at it than others. But being a skill, it gets better over time. So if you try hypnosis a first time, you'll be maybe moderately successful, but if you stick with it over time, you'll get much better. Now, Edgar Cayce, because of losing his voice, he tried hypnosis for months, and what they found is that he got deeper and deeper. He was not able to give what would be called a reading in the first time he was hypnotized. They had consultation with well-known hypnotists that helped him learn how to deepen the trance, and that's where he was able to access this kind of deeper self that was able to diagnose his condition and recommend the treatment, which we know as the readings. But again, that you know that that was a skill that Edgar Cayce developed over time. His first reading, he was not able to go that deep. Now, hypnotizability is a bell-shaped curve, meaning there's some people that are very difficult to hypnotize, and there's some individuals that are highly hypnotizable. Most people are moderate to mildly hypnotizable. Now, to have a past life regression, if you believe in reincarnation, you can be mildly to moderately hypnotized and have this memory. Now, it's my belief that in order to access somebody else's past life memory, as Edgar Cayce would do, accessing the Akashic Record, I think you have to go to a deeper level of trance. But I believe your own personal Akashic Record or your own personal soul memory is very accessible to you. And in a mild to moderate state of trance, you can access it. It's a bit like there's a part of you that is listening and alert to kind of the regressionist, and then there's a part of you that's sort of watching a movie. And so you have this kind of dual consciousness. You're seeing, and then you're able to describe. Now, some people go into the movie, and some people describe their past life as if it's actually happening in real time, and then some people do go unconscious, meaning some people won't speak. They'll speak about what they experienced later, and some people will not remember what they said. That's more rare. That's why oftentimes a person wants a recording of the session so that they can hear the entire experience. And then it's important, I always highlight that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, meaning that if someone came to me and said, "You can't hypnotize me," I wouldn't even try, because they will reject the suggestion. So for someone to be hypnotized, they have to want to be hypnotized. They have to be open, they have to trust the hypnotist. There's a number of factors that have to be in place for the person to go under or to experience hypnosis. Sometimes the first session with a hypnotherapist, the person's going to be on guard because they kind of want to watch, is this person going to ask for my PIN number? Where is this going? And then the second session, if they feel that the first session went well, they might be able to go deeper. Now, when we use hypnosis for regression, I alluded to some of the assumptions. The first assumption is that there is a separation between our conscious and unconscious mind. That we have a conscious mind that's working now, and that there's a part of us, a deeper part of us, that operates behind the scenes. Now, if you go into kind of the, well, let me just continue this. We have two basic selves. We have an ego self and a soul self. So that begins to become a little bit more of a spiritual understanding, that right now I'm speaking from my personality, but that I also have an infinite part of me, a part of me that existed before I was born and will exist after I pass away. I was raised Catholic, and so there was a lot of discussion about life after death, that there would be an eternal part of me, but there was never much talk about what that eternal part of me was doing before birth. And so that was part of what helped me move from my traditional Christian or Catholic upbringing into moving into the possibility that there is reincarnation. So regression is the application of hypnosis to access the subconscious or the sleeping soul mind. Just remembering that we have this important oneness consciousness that has gone to sleep, and hypnosis is a way of opening or accessing the sleeping soul mind. Now, I give a whole day lecture almost on this subject, so let me summarize it. So Cayce talks about how in the beginning we are one with our Creator, and that we come from this infinite oneness consciousness. And we are, as the Creator, we have this desire to experience, to learn, and to grow. That basically we've been created in consciousness, and that we're seeking, the Creator is seeking conscious companionship, and we are, as the Creator, also seeking conscious growth and learning. Now, partly, as we go about this voyage through this infinite universe of worlds, we're drawn, according to Edgar Cayce, to this three-dimensional earth. Now, why are we drawn to this earth? Well, we are drawn by curiosity of that which is different. And so, when you begin to work with difference, you begin to create language. So this world would be considered physical or material. The soul is considered spiritual or non-physical. So if you think of it in our three-dimensional thinking, the soul is a bit like steam, and the earth is like ice. It's an experience in steam to ice would be temperature, but soul to physical is in consciousness. So we enter this physical realm, we begin to experience what's new and what's different about this. But what's complicated is that imagine that you come from a mansion of consciousness. Cayce interpreted, in my Father's house are many mansions, meaning consciousness. So we come from this infinite consciousness, and we're curious about this three-dimensional world. So as we make this transition, we move from an infinite mansion into a three-bedroom apartment. So if you're going to move from a mansion into a three-bedroom apartment, not all of your stuff is going to fit in that. And so slowly you begin to put parts of you into storage. And as it moves into the subconscious, it becomes sort of forgotten. It becomes put just outside of or beyond the veil of our waking consciousness. Now, Cayce has a neat, is it my next slide, where he talks about how life is a dream of the soul. And so there's this seesaw of consciousness, that before birth, we are soul conscious. But as we come into this three-dimensional world, there's this switch. The soul mind goes into the subconscious, it goes asleep, you could say, and then we have waking consciousness. And when waking consciousness goes to sleep, we have dreams, or we meditate, and we go into soul consciousness. So there's this seesaw, in a way, if you follow me on that. And so the ego mind has to be subdued, subjugated, or put to sleep for soul consciousness to come through. And so we're most familiar with accessing soul mind through dreams and meditation. Also, near-death experiences are oftentimes. I don't recommend those. They can be a little bit risky, so don't try those at home. Just come in and try hypnosis. And so here, just ending with this, that we have developed an amnesia to our true nature. That we are living in three-bedroom apartments, and we've forgotten that we come from a mansion. We've just kind of gotten identified with this. Oftentimes I think that we're all kind of beggars, and we've forgotten that we're millionaires. We've forgotten that we have wealth in the bank. And so this process of dreams, meditation, and hypnosis are a process of remembering the truth of who we are. And here are just some quotes from the Bible. The Holy Spirit shall bring all things to your remembrance. God's book of remembrance. There's something, Cayce calls it the Akashic Records. Cayce coined that term. I think now if you go on Google, I don't know how many millions of hits you get for that. But the Akasha is a Sanskrit word, and it means ether. And basically, it is how each moment in time is recorded in a way. So this moment right now is being recorded and can be viewed. So a person who goes into a hypnosis regression, you can do it through meditation, or people in dreams can remember past lives. And so you access somehow this Akasha, this ether. Cayce talked about how we access that all easily when we're outside of the body, and some can do it in the body, as Edgar Cayce was able to do. Now, some of my background with doing this is I originally started off as a psychotherapist, and as I began to work with hypnosis, I found that it was having substantial positive effects. People were changing and growing, but there was something about it that I didn't like. Like I was kind of thinking, why don't I enjoy this? Why, when somebody wants to work with hypnosis, why am I feeling like, oh, okay? And as I wrestled with it, it's because when I do psychotherapy, my ego is in full bloom. You know, I'm having to listen, I'm having to use all my years of experience to try to help them. And when they succeed, I feel that my expertise is part of the change. When I do hypnosis, I just put the person under, you know, I'm a Sherpa. I take them to the top of Mount Everest. They look at Mount Everest. I say, hey, you ready to go home? You ready to go back? You know, it's time to go back. It's very egoless. Fantastic things happen, but I just guide people. I take, you know, I'm a technician. I've learned how to get people under trance. I've learned how to give suggestions. Whatever is most useful to you will come through. The soul, I have come to learn, is pregnant with a birth. It wants to birth something into your consciousness. It's trying to come through in dreams. Your soul consciousness is constantly trying to, it's what happens with synchronicities. It's the signs that you see. It's your soul mind just trying to prompt you along your spiritual path. And so that's what happens in this process. You go behind the veil and you access incredible, deep, profound memories and experiences that are oftentimes very, very helpful in your spiritual path. And then I just bring the person back and they pay me and thank me, and that's it. When I teach the course, the students believe that there is something mystically magic about this. And so I bring students up who have never done a regression to regress someone who's never had a regression, and they read a script and people have profound experiences. It's not about your personality. It's about the two souls interacting and the guides, all this process coming forward. Now, I believe that some of this, as we move into hypnosis and regression through Brian Weiss is coming into its heyday, I think some of it is in accord with Edgar Cayce's predictions about the Aquarian Age. He talked about this time that we're moving into, that we're going to be having more easy access to our Creator. That in days of old, it was the prophets. They were the ones that were accessing God consciousness and then bringing it to the masses. Cayce talks about this time that we're each becoming more and more available to that there's a thinning of the veil, so to speak, between the earthly human consciousness and the God consciousness. And I think that's partly what is making this work easier, that people are more easily entering trance, they're more easily entering, receiving contact from their soul consciousness. And then here, part of this process, according to Edgar Cayce, is that as we become more soul conscious, basically becoming soul consciousness means that you're awakening to oneness. And that one of the problems in a three-dimensional consciousness is that we get into division and separation. And as we become more one conscious means that all of us here are one, that we're all brothers and sisters, all of us as a human family, all of the earth, we're all one. And that's, as we move more and more into that consciousness, that's what will bring us closer and closer to this 1,000 years of peace that's predicted in the book of Revelation. So I see that we're all here at the beginning of this new age that has this promise of eventually becoming more soul awakened, that we won't have to go into trance or meditate, that'll become more accessible. Kind of the truth and the realities that we access through hypnosis and meditation will become more and more part of our daily waking consciousness. And I believe that there's also a movement away from seeking the healer and the avatar outside of us. Jesus would heal. You'd come blind and whatever, and he would access the healing God energies, and then you would be healed, coming to him as the healer. And then Edgar Cayce, the next step, he didn't lay hands on anyone and heal anyone. He helped you to do the work that you needed to do to heal yourself. So he would give the diagnosis and the treatments, but have you ever tried to heal yourself or treat yourself with a Cayce reading? It's not, it's not instantaneous healing. Castropacks, colonics, I'll go on and on. That's a process to get well. And I believe now we're moving into a time where you're your own Edgar Cayce, you're your own Jesus, that you can access that within yourself. You can learn how to give readings for yourself and access very personal spiritual healing information through direct contact, removing the intermediaries, and accessing God through our own inner temple. And I think that that's my time that I had. Well, I'll be here later for any questions that you have. So thank you, and I can't believe I did that in 20 minutes.